Welcome to Clarion Connection. I'm Ron Wilshire, and my guest today is Clarion University Provost Ron Nowaczyk. And Ron, I'd like to bring you back, and I wanted to talk about some pretty tough issues today. One was the enrollment situation, and then the impact on the budget at Clarion. Now, I understand in the enrollment during the last 2 years, Clarion University enrollment's gone down about 10%. And that obviously can have some serious financial impact on the university.
Good morning, Ron. Yeah, it does. And you're right about the enrollment issues. It's impacted us, and some of it was expected because one of the things we have been seeing is that we've seen a decrease in high school graduates in Western Pennsylvania. In fact, this year, the PASHE system, the 14 schools were down over 3,000, almost 4,000 students across the system. So that drop really reflects a couple of things. One, I think, is still part of the fact that the economy hasn't recovered, but more than that, the decrease in the number of high school students that are graduating, and that as you know, is our lifeblood for the university. So what we saw was a drop. I am pleased that we didn't see as large a drop as some of the other schools. Edinburgh had a larger drop this year. Cal had a larger drop. So I think some of the actions we took this year mitigated against some of the drop, and we didn't see the drop across the board. We saw it in some particular programs more than others.
Which programs did you see it more?
The biggest impact we saw was in education. We saw a decline in the applications in education. Education was down over 200 students this year in terms of where we had seen it previously, and much of that is it's not a reflection of a less of an interest in students coming to Clarion in education. It's just a drop in students interested in education. By that, what I mean is we saw that if you applied, the number of students who we accepted and decided to come was consistent with what we've seen in past years. What we just saw is a lot of students were deciding not to go into education. And I think that's a reflection, again, of the school systems and the state cutting back on education, K through 12 education, fewer students in there, at least in the higher grades, secondary ed. So that's where we saw the biggest drop. We actually saw business was up and arts and sciences held its own, and Venango was up in terms of enrollment.
I imagine just reading the newspapers, the number of teacher cuts in various school districts throughout the state and the country, for that matter, would bring some pretty scary outlooks to if you're looking at investing in your future.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's demoralizing. And unless you're willing to relocate, there are teaching jobs. If you're willing to go to the Southwest or the Southeast, there are teaching jobs there, and our students can teach at those schools. But as you know, many of the students from Western Pennsylvania want to go back to their communities they were in, want to teach in those areas, and so they're not interested necessarily in relocating to other parts of the country. And it is demoralizing when they look at it and say, well, is this something I really want to spend my time in going into? The uncertainty it makes it difficult for some students in terms of career choices.
Now, with the drop in enrollment coupled with the drops in state funding, that's kind of creating the perfect storm, or your own particular version of Sandy for Clarion and some of the other state schools. Yeah,
you are correct about that. Unfortunately, this year, it's really we have to just say we're glad that we stayed even. You know, we got the same level of funding we had the previous years. The previous year, that helped us. We took the big hit 2 years ago in the budget cut, and we made a lot of adjustments to it. I will say one thing that Clarion has done is positioned itself well with regard to its debt and putting some money on the side. So we do have some reserves we can use to help us through this period of time with the budget cuts. So you're not seeing the drastic changes in cutting of programs or eliminating colleges or departments that you might see in other states that experienced it over the last several years in higher education.
There was a series of articles in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette dealing with the debt that the various universities in the state system had, and it specifically highlighted Clarion as for having a very moderate or low debt record.
Yeah, you're right. And what was interesting on that is that a lot of the schools, a lot of our sister schools in PASHE have made a decision to upgrade facilities, build new buildings, a lot of new buildings. Now, we've been doing some building, but we've been doing it on almost, I would say, as a pay-as-you-go basis to keep our debt under control. Other schools had not done that, and that's why I think the point of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette article was that a number of the other institutions had really expanded and replaced buildings, built new buildings, and as part of that incurred debt. And when the downturn in the economy, they're now facing the fact that they have high debt and the income isn't quite there what it was. I understand why they did it, because one of the things when you're trying to attract an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old, they love to see a brand new campus, see all these new buildings, all these new facilities. At the same time, the parents are looking at it and realizing that they're going to have to pay for part of that through student fees. So under the Grunenwald administration, I think it's certainly continuing under Karen Whitney, the decision has been made not to, go wild with building. Now, we have reserves set up, I do know, for, as we look at replacing residence halls as they run through their lifespan, we've been careful to set aside some funds from auxiliary enterprises that we'll be able to use to help offset some of those costs, again, to reduce the debt that we would have to incur in building new buildings.
And with residence halls, a lot of, when the initial growth in the 60s, the state paid for everything. Now, that hasn't been the case for some time, but if any new residence hall is constructed, it has to be paid for by local funds.
That's right. We go through the foundation at this point. The Clarion University Foundation really helps us with that and manages that. And that's been a help for us because of the sound management there. We have the ability to, we have good credit rating, and as you know, the article pointed out, our debt is not anywhere near where it is at the other institutions, which puts us in a good position as we move forward. We are moving forward in renovating one of our buildings on campus, Bechtal, which is going to be what we call a one-stop shop, so students will be able to go in and get everything they need in one building, and that's being funded through state funds, and that people will be seeing work on that beginning shortly. We're still doing some interior work, but fences will be going up, and that building is scheduled to be renovated by summer of 2014.
Well, that may show some the cautious aspect of Clarion, because that money's been on the books for some time to do Bechtal, but I know they want to do it right, and it's one of the oldest buildings on campus, and you still want to make it LEED certified.
Right, and we're going to be doing some things outside of the building. It will also keep some of the character inside of the original building, because, as you say, it is an unusual building. It is one of very few that the architect who designed it did much of Stanford's campus. It has that California look to it, and actually is built on a basis of a villa that was designed on a villa that was out in California in the early 1900s.
Going back to residence housing for students, I noticed there was an article in the Oil City Derrick last several days about the more suite-style housing. I know you're looking at Near and Wilkinson. Is that related to that?
Yes. Yeah. What we're finding now, and again, we use the word residence hall now as opposed to what many of us use dormitories. Yes. The idea of the long hallway with everybody having a common bathroom at the end of the hall for 20 or 30 rooms of double occupancy, those days are dwindling on most campuses, because what we're finding is students want what I would call much more closer to what we call apartment-style living. They want to have that suite style. They want more privacy. They want more amenities. And so what we're looking at here, again, what we're facing is a challenge, because students are asking for amenities, and we need to price it right, because one of the things that all of the state schools across the country are talking about now is value, which means when you graduate, what are you getting for the cost that was invested in that? And so if we're going to have suite style living, we're going to have to show that there's value in it before individuals are going to sit there and put the money into it. And that, we're very conscious of that. I mean, again, being in Western Pennsylvania, we have a lot of individuals who are first-generation college students coming and pricing it and making it affordable, and not having, again, one thing we keep looking at is the amount of debt that students are incurring, and how we handle that is really important. So housing, and it's almost it's a push-pull kind of thing, because the students want, if you left it to a student coming in, an 18-year-old, they would love to have a single room with flat panel TVs, cable, wireless, everything there. And the parents who are paying the bill are asking, how much is this all going to cost? So that becomes a fine line. One of the nice things is we've had the ability here to have different types of housing at different cost levels. But again, what I hear from the people in student housing and student living is that students are coming in, residence halls, the students are interested in looking at, the best that's available.
One of the recent additions has been an extension on the amount of time that a student has to live on campus if they're not a commuter. But it's now, you have to live on university-approved housing or university-related housing for 2 years?
That's right. That goes into effect next fall. So that will only start for freshmen who are being accepted this upcoming year. So current students are not under the policy. The policy is one in which, again, we're talking about enrollment change. Part of the enrollment drop we see, what we're trying to deal with is what we call the retention or persistence. Students who continue on after their first year or second year. Right now, we're losing about 30% of our students after the first year drop out of school. Now, some come back at other points. There's a phenomenon known as swirling, students coming in and out of different institutions, much different than what went on 20 or 30 years ago. But one of the things that's important for us is retention and persistence. And studies have shown that if students live on campus for 2 years, they're more likely to graduate. And so we have a higher retention rate. We know it already for schools that don't require students to live on campus versus those that do. Living on campus, even the first year, which is a critical year, is very important. But going to the second year actually adds too for students who may not have yet made the total adjustment, to the life. Let's say they made the adjustment to the social life, but not the academic life. And so that 2-year requirement will be going into effect next fall for new students coming in fall of 13.
Any idea when the changes related to Near and Wilkinson will take place?
It will depend somewhat on the economy and also our budgeting. I know we have been looking in discussions about, locating the new buildings, working with the borough as to approvals of moving plans along. But I think the earliest you would see it would be fall of 2014. That would be the earliest, and that may even be pushed back beyond that. We certainly will want to have it to come on in the fall, so you're looking either fall 2014 or 2015 if we move forward with the project.
So eventually Near and Wilkinson would be taken down and replaced by some type of suite housing near there.
Yes, right. And the plan at one point, the plans we've been working on right now is really for it to be along 322 and having it there with some retail space on the first floor.
Oh, okay. Let's get back to the budget, the financial implications, because a lot of my friends are still teaching there or employed there, and so the community also wants to know, are there going to be layoffs and that kind of stuff, to put it bluntly.
Yep. No, and I appreciate that, Ron. Well, the question, if you hear, well, I will tell you there have been a number of position reductions that have occurred in what we call the infrastructure side of the university. Even in my own area, we've had, over the last several months, at least 2 or 3 positions that have gone unfilled. So when we talk at the university, we talk about 2 types of divisions or operations. One is the academic, which is the ones we're really involved with the instruction of the students and includes the administration of that, which means the dean's offices. And then we have what we call the infrastructure side of the university, which is the support side. That includes, admissions, registrar's office, the computing center, libraries, all those aspects, facilities, and so forth. Well, over the past several years, infrastructure has had reductions in positions, many cases not eliminating positions but not filling positions when they became available. In the academic side, we've actually done some of that as well, in that we've reduced our reliance on temporary faculty. If you look at the number of temporary or part-time faculty we had 2 years ago versus now, you'll see there's a lot fewer temporary faculty. The problem with the budget is that as the budget has dropped because of a loss of enrollment and also the budget cuts from 2 years, we've had to do some across-the-board cuts, but you can only do that so long. And now we're at the point of saying, we need to reduce the budget further. And if we reduce the budget in the academic side, about 80 to 90% of the budget is in personnel lines. It's faculty lines. And so the question becomes one, how can we keep cutting, or where do we make the cuts to do it? And you don't want to do it across the board, because in some cases you affect some very good departments. So there have been a lot of talk, and people have been rumors about what they call what is referred to in the collective bargaining agreement with the faculty is the term faculty retrenchment, which means that if we're to eliminate a faculty position, there is a process that has to be followed. I will tell you that we sent a letter yesterday to the local ABSCUF president, Jamie Phillips. The president did, saying that there will be no faculty elimination, faculty retrenchments this year. There are none planned for this year. Over the last several weeks, which has been a tense time on campus, the faculty have really come together to work with the administration and the academic leadership to identify alternative things we can do that can help us through this year and position us for next year.
So in addition to no individual removal, there's not any plans right now for removal of an entire department?
No, we're not doing any combination of any departments. We discussed it. I'll be very honest with you. We discussed the possibility of combining some departments. Combining departments just to combine them, unless there was some really cost savings, wasn't the goal. Or if we were combining departments because it was going to help us academically, because we would create some more opportunities for new programs, that makes sense. But just to do it is not a good idea.
Have there been any results from the decentralization of the budget process? I know that a lot of the budget-making decision was placed further in the department hands over the years, and you have to show what impact you're having and that type of thing. Any interesting results from that? Yeah,
that's what we call this responsibility-centered management. We've now pushed the budgeting down to the level of the deans being responsible for what's going on. And so in those instances, what we found is some of the colleges have really, I guess we've been able to identify practices that make sense and those that don't make sense in the budget.
And make appropriate adjustments.
Well, yeah, and again, a good example is education. Even though it's showing a decrease in enrollment, made money last year based on their budget, so they were able to carry over some additional money to reallocate for new initiatives that may be going on in their college.
Great. Well, we'll continue to talk a little bit about this after our commercial break. You're listening to Clarion Connection.
If you care about this election,
if you have an opinion,
if you want a voice,
if you want to make a difference, show it.
Show it.
When voting this election day, November 6th, you will be asked, but not required, to show a photo ID. To learn more about the new law in Pennsylvania and how to get a free photo ID from PennDOT for future elections, call 1-877-VOTES-PA or visit votespa.com. Sponsored by the PA Department of State.
Need the perfect ingredients for a great tailgating experience? All you need are good friends, football, and your favorite food served hot off the propane grill. When grilling, keep the grill top open when lighting, and don't close it until you're sure the grill is lit. Use soapy water to check for leaks between the hose and cylinder connections. Never use an open flame. Always transport and store cylinders in an upright position, and never store or use cylinders indoors.
Brought to you by the Pennsylvania Propane Foundation and your local propane service provider.
My therapist had told me that I needed to go to AA meetings, but I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go because I didn't want to be an alcoholic. That was not what I wanted to grow up and be. I didn't want to go to AA, but I did, and it wasn't what I expected by any means. It was friendly. I could feel it. I could feel the happiness. It's really great. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Buy 4 qualifying Cooper tires during the Take the Money and Ride national event August 24th through November 6th, and you'll get tires built for you, not just your car. You'll also get up to a $75 Cooper Tire Visa prepaid card by mail. Visit Carly Tire in Clarion or CooperTireRebates.com for rebate forms and official terms and conditions. This card is issued by Center State Bank of Florida, N.A. pursuant to a license from Visa USA Incorporated. Life's a road trip. Come on, let's go. Carly Tire, the area's largest selection of tires.
Christmas must be just around the corner because it's time for Homes for the Holidays in Sligo, November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. This great craft and gift event has all you'll need for a beautiful holiday season. Stop by the Rec Center in Sligo for more information, and that's where you'll also find a dozen different vendors selling crafts and baked goods. Then travel all around the Sligo area, visiting other participating homes, businesses, and churches for crafts, food, and gift ideas for Christmas. Watch for the green shamrocks in front of each location. Among those participating are Granny's House, Peppermint Lane, Sligo Presbyterian Church, Emery's Outlet, The Wonder of Christmas, and Northwest Savings Bank. For more information on Sligo's Homes for the Holidays, call 745-2074. Homes for the Holidays, 3 big days, November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, from 10 to 6 each day. Brought to you by the Sligo Developmental Council.
Welcome back to Clarion Connection. I'm Ron Wilshire, and talking with Clarion University Provost Ron Nowaczyk today. We've already talked about some rather heavy issues already, and we wanted to talk a little bit about going back to the faculty end of things. And you had said that the retrenchment letter was now off the table for this year, and looking at different things. And I imagine you're also looking at different areas. And one of the most visible areas recently has been a petition regarding the Clarion University Theater, the summer theater, and there's a petition going around that basically questions the end of the summer theater program at the university, and probably also talks about the regular theater in itself. There's a petition available on Facebook and all the other web stuff out there. But what can you tell us about the theater aspect?
Well, it's a good point you're bringing up, Ron, because we did start getting people who sent the petition last week. And I would say what we're looking at here is part of the issue has been how do we address the budget deficit. And I will really thank the leadership in the college and also in the Department of Theater, because one of the suggestions that came from the theater department chair was, let's take what we're calling a hiatus from summer theater this upcoming year. Let's step back and take a look at the cost of that program and look at restructuring it in a financially viable fashion as we move forward. This is across the country. It's not unusual to say that the arts oftentimes are expensive propositions for an academic enterprise, just as it is for community. And we've looked at theater. Our theater productions are funded primarily through student fees and tuition. That seems to be the driving force. We do get, yes, ticket sales, and there are some friends of the theater, but not at the level where if we were not counting on student tuition and student fees, we would really have some difficulty putting on any theater productions. And the theater productions obviously are crucial for the theater program as well as for the community. So at the recommendation of the theater department and the theater chair, we decided to say, yes, this summer, let's take a step back. Let's look at what we're doing in summer theater. Ask ourselves, do we want to continue it? Do we want to construct it in a different fashion? Do we want to do things a bit differently? And look at the financial implications. And so that's what we're doing. I'm encouraging individuals who are committed, and I appreciate the people who have sent petitions. I've received, well, several hundred in emails, to consider becoming friends of the theater. I'm sending a check in to become a patron of the theater, and I'm encouraging other people to do the same, because I think it is important to the community, it's important to our students, but in good conscience at this point, it's difficult for us with low enrollments during the year and during the summer. We have to look at things that we're going to have to cut back on for a while until we can figure out how we go about it in the future. But it's not something that has gone away permanently. We are really working. I want to work with the faculty and I want to work with the community to ask, how should it work, what should it be, and how can we come up with a business plan that makes it financially viable.
So there will be no summer theater in 2013?
At this point, not in the way it has been in the past. Okay, so I don't see us, I think we had to let Sawmill Theater know, according to my discussions with the department chair, about our intentions for next year. And what it will look like, whether we will have any productions, it's too early yet to be able to tell.
What are some of the big expenses related to summer theater, just for people that aren't that close to it?
A lot of it is production costs. Again, you know, the actors aren't costing us much because they're students and local community folks. But when we bring in people from the outside to help with either the direction or the production sides of it, they're being paid for it. The actual set, creating the sets, those kinds of things, unless we have enough students who are paying tuition to cover it, then other students are being forced or being asked to cover it through their tuitions. So it's really the production side of it. And again, thinking getting the rights. If you're doing musicals, as Bob Levy has told me, you know, some musicals are much more expensive than others to put on, and the length of the time we run the show, you know, in terms of recouping the costs, those kinds of things are all the factors we're going to have to take a look at. But again, across the country, community theaters typically do find that they have to be very careful in watching their books. It's not a money-making operation unless you're getting donations in many instances.
Switching subjects back to something you mentioned earlier regarding student debt loads across the country, people are concerned because students are coming out with some pretty high debt loads that affect their entire future. And Clarion's costs are lower than other places, but that's still a consideration. I understand there's a recent reorganization in the student financial aid services at Clarion. You want to talk about that? I know you've made some changes in management and just how you do things.
Yep. What happened this past year, Ron, is we had, again, you mentioned the perfect storm situation. Well, about a year ago, we implemented a new operating system called PeopleSoft. And during that process, it's a learning process, and everybody tells us across the country those things take time. We had a lot of concerns from parents and from students about processing of financial aid information. And so that forced us to actually bring in an external reviewer, a consultant who came in and looked at our operations. And one of the suggestions they made is that was that there seemed to be a disconnect between student financial aid processing, that is the paperwork there, and student billing. That in some cases parents were getting mixed messages and so forth, and as well as within the university. So the suggestion was made that we really focus, and I agreed with this, more on the customer relations side, and customers being external as well as internal. So we've created a new operation called Student Financial Services, which is combining student financial aid with student billing. Parents this year saw new bills in a different format than they've seen before, which we hope is easier to read. So as part of that whole decision, we are trying to work on making it easier for parents to apply for financial aid, to get the information, and the whole process from applying to financial aid to billing, and creating what we're calling a Student Financial Services Office. So that was a reorganization that went on a couple months ago.
A few years ago, didn't even the student loans change in terms of, didn't the schools do more with originating the loans?
What happened, again, we're getting a little bit outside my area of expertise, but part of what happened previously is that we had situations where banks used to give the loans, and now it's through the federal government. And the federal government is backing the loans. So regulations have changed, and the ability for people to report those and fill out what they call FAFSAs. So it is a pretty complex system for people to do, and there are deadlines that have to be met for people to be able to get the grants and loans that they need. So it really does require individuals who have, we really need offices with unique individuals, those that have the ability to understand all of the accounting issues that are going on, but also have the ability to work very closely and understand, be empathetic to the parents when they're working through things.
So you have all these things to deal with, and we still have to look at recruitment of new students to keep the lifeblood of the university going. Any changes there?
We're doing a lot more in recruitment right now, Ron, just really very quickly. One of the things, we've reduced our out-of-state tuition to the lowest level allowed by the state. And in doing so, we've seen actually an increase in the number of students coming in. We're going to be recruiting more and more students from Northeast Ohio, if possible. We're going to continue to be working on Western Pennsylvania. And the other side that we'll be working on, again, is the Pittsburgh area. One of the things I think that's been exciting for us, and this came from the faculty, is they suggested a combination of a bachelor's degree with an MBA, a 5-year program. And I was very pleased to have the faculty suggest that. So that will be one of the things we'll be emphasizing this year for recruiting. The other thing we're looking at is trying to put a 4-year nursing program on this campus. That will not happen until a year from now at the earliest in terms of recruiting students. But we know there's a demand. We have a 2-year program at Venango for students who want to just get on and become nurses and do the 2-year associate's degree. We have a program for students who want to get, who already have an RN but don't have a bachelor's degree, to complete it online. We have that at Venango. We're looking at creating or proposing a doctorate in nursing practice with Edinburgh. But the one thing that's missing is we don't have a 4-year nursing program. And so the nursing faculty are looking at doing that, and if we do, it will be located on this campus.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Ron. I know you've had a challenging couple of years as a provost. Are you enjoying it?
Oh, I'm enjoying it a lot, Ron. This has been great. A great community, and again, we've had challenges, but the challenges, we'll work through the challenges and we'll succeed. Thanks so much.
Listening to Clarion Connection. Welcome back next week.